Hey everybody, Leap-A-Lot here. It's kind of a running gag among my viewers and friends that I'm not actually good at Stardew Valley. I just know stuff. But the thing is, I've just recently passed 2,400 hours, as in 100 days of my actual life in Stardew Valley. So today, I'm going to put that knowledge to the test and push myself to the limit. And I have a few goals on this run to make it more fun. I want to complete the community center before winter, make over 1 million gold, upgrade all my tools to iridium, hit level 10 in every skill, catch all the fish, and before you click away, consider this one, the only one that really matters. Make it in to Mr. Key's Walnut room before 100 days are up. Lofty goals, but they're all technically possible, and I'm feeling confident. Day 1 was a pretty standard day. I planted my initial crops and did a little bit of cleaning up around the farm. Because I picked the Four Corners farm, I made sure to check my quarry for copper. I broke that to get a few early pieces. I ran around to meet all the people I could, and I bought 1 green bean seed. I can get cauliflower and potatoes from mixed seeds, but I'll need this to complete the spring crops bundle. After I met everyone I could, I spent the night clearing up the farm, and I exhausted myself. That's no problem though, because I gained a foraging level, and we will wake up with full energy. Day 2, I immediately got the furnace recipe from Clint. We're gonna need furnaces, like a lot of them. I watered my crops, picked up a chest, and made sure to bring a fiber with me to go greet Willie. After he gave me the bamboo rod, I gave him the most precious gift a man can give, some grass I found on my farm yesterday. He didn't like it. Then I got to the busy work of fishing. I was lucky to get some bubbles just out of my reach, which meant if I could level up just one single time, I'd be able to cast into them. I ended up hitting fishing 2 before Willie closed, which was my biggest goal for the day. I sold everything I had and took my rod and chest to go fishing in the mountain lake. I ended up hitting fishing level 3, and I also passed out on a plank bridge between 2 islands. Fancy. On day 3, I woke up to find that Joja had collected my unconscious body from the mountain lake and deposited me into my bed. Now, normally Joja will charge you for this highly invasive service, but because I had literally 2 gold to my name, they did it for free. You can't take my money away if I have no money. That's going to be a theme for a while, by the way. If we pass out, we lose 10% of the money we had the day before, up to 1,000 gold. We'll also wake up with a huge energy loss. But if we have no money and we level up a skill the day before, we'll wake up no worse for wear. So we'll be trying to do that where possible to cut down on travel time. Oh, that was a lot of talking for day 3. I also went fishing all day. I wanted to reach fishing level 5 today so I could get some projects started as early as the 5th. That meant spending all day at the river with a short pit stop to Willie for more bait and to catch at least 1 eel for the community center. I managed to achieve my goal, which meant I could sell some fish tomorrow with the higher prices. Yay! Day 4 was, you may have guessed this, more fishing. I watered my crops, since we never get rain on day 4, and I sold a whole bunch of stinky fish. Lately, I've been parking myself on this plank here. I used to like going to the little island in the middle, but I found that I can see the whole area fine from here, and it's still deep enough water for me to catch high-quality fish. Today, though, I had some bubbles appear up north by the JoJo worker, which meant I needed to zoom in so he wasn't in my screen, or I would have to listen to him working on those rocks the whole time. It was very disrespectful of him to ruin my fishing experience. Those bubbles stuck around for a couple hours, helping me reach fishing level 7 today. And that's actually tied for the fastest I've ever done this, so I was pretty happy about that, to be honest. Day 5 is always a big day for a new farm. Marnie showed up with a dog that I named Pilfy, after my 2 dogs, Pickle and Alfie. I then harvested my parsnips and replaced them with some spring seeds I crafted. Then I planted some rice that I fished up, which is always kind of weird to me. After that, it was off to the museum to make donations and get some cauliflower. Before I could get there, though, Mayor Lewis tried to show me the community center. I told him to kick rocks and that his mustache is ugly, and then I went to go look at the weird book inside anyway. Something I should mention since I'm already in town here is that another goal of this farm is to find the trash hat. Every time I'm in town, I'll be checking garbage cans. There's something like a 1 in 500 chance to find that hat in the trash can, so I don't have super high hopes, but it is kind of my brand, so, I have to look. I dropped off some stuff with Gunther, then ran home to do some last-minute errands. I planted my cauliflowers, checked the traveling cart, and considered spending 600 gold to buy a lobster before realizing that was a terrible idea. And then I hit the mines. My goal was to hit floor 20 and collect a whole bunch of copper. Every 5 floors I planned to pop back up and smelt more bars. I also needed to get home tonight because I kind of sold those fish a little early. Whoops. So I dove into my remixed mines looking for glory, and I found a bunch of copper, made some more furnaces, and smelted some bars. I didn't hit floor 20, and I didn't have enough copper bars for my plans, so I brought a couple of furnaces home with me, and I got some much-needed rest. On day 6, I had a letter from some dude who called himself a wizard. He wanted to talk to me about the community center, so I went to go visit. But when I got there, he tried to get me to sample his tea. I told him I'm not into MLMs, but he still taught me how to read the Apple language, so I could officially start making donations to the Junimos now. I did just that and got 30 spring seeds for my efforts. Neat. Then, since I was feeling fancy, I bought myself a new backpack and some parsnip seeds. I also went to Clint's to crack all my geodes from fishing and mining and put my pickaxe in for an upgrade. I bought myself a little bit of gold from Clint so I wouldn't have any money also. Because remember, if you're carrying gold in your pockets but your wallet is empty, no one can steal from you. Then I went home and planted a ton of spring seeds. I really want the foraging levels I can get from harvesting, but we'll also be making some tea saplings eventually just to sell. I don't want to go crazy with that since I need wood and fiber for lots of other projects, but it'll be a nice boost to our income when they do come into play. After that, I went fishing at the ocean for some bundle fish and cleaned up my farm just a tiny bit before sliding under the covers at 1:50 a.m., my favorite time to go to bed. Day 7 was another very, very exciting day. I checked the traveling cart and was disappointed. I checked the trash and was disappointed. And then I gave Lewis a flower for his birthday and I was disappointed in myself, honestly. I also noticed that tomorrow was going to be a rainy day. I was at Fishing 7, so if I could find some fish tacos for sale or in Gus's garbage, I might be able to hook the legend on day 8. Assuming I could hit Fishing 8 at some point. However, I was disappointed, again, by both the store and the trash. Bummer. So I just bought a whole bunch of bait and went fishing at my favorite spot. I did end up hitting Fishing 8, so I figure I'll just check the garbage and saloon again tomorrow. Who knows? Day 8 was a rainy, lucky day, and I kind of struggled deciding what to do. My copper pickaxe was ready, but I really wanted those sweet, sweet catfish. I had sold just enough yesterday to have $5,000 in my pocket, so I brought 5 iron bars with me and started my morning down at the river. It was hard to argue with the money I could make from these little catfish, so I figured I would just get my pickaxe upgraded again and keep fishing all day. I still wanted to check on Gus's rotating dish though, and he had 1 fish taco. Oh my gosh. I also checked his garbage can after. I should have checked that first, but there was nothing in there anyway. But still, 1 fish taco. I ran over to Clint to get my pick, but I did not put it in for an upgrade. I needed to do something else with the catfish cache now. I also turned in some quests, I guess, that I had been sitting on. Sometimes I like to keep these until I need the cash, and I really needed it now. Then I went to Willie and sold my morning's catch. I bought myself an iridium rod and a trapper bobber. It was go time. I sprinted up to the mountain lake, chowed down on my fish taco, and immediately got smoked by the legend. It's tough, alright? But my fishing buff lasted for several hours. I had time to try again. 3 hours later, I got another legend on the line. This was the one. He wasn't even too... Oh, okay, there he goes. That's alright, that's okay, we got this. 20 minutes later, I had him again. Come on, little dude, don't be a jerk. Also, I hate when legendary fish have treasure because it's just so tempting. Come on. But this time, I was victorious. The legend was mine. Time to drop him off in a chest and go get more catfish. I spent the rest of the night at the river and went to sleep feeling pretty darn proud of myself. Legend on day 8. What's up? Not bad. On day 9, I walked outside and found Demetrius waiting for me. The great equalizer. Bats or mushrooms. I picked bats, obviously. Come on, guys. Who is out here picking mushrooms? I'm a gambler, and I want the community center finished, dang it. It was a bad luck day, so I didn't want to go to the mines. Instead, I kind of just messed around. I gave Caroline a flower, checked the trash. Sorry, Willie. Put my pickaxe in for an upgrade to iron, dropped off some stuff at the museum, and then returned home to clean up a little bit. I knew I was going to need a lot of oak resin, so I started a little tree nursery in the top left quadrant of my farm, but, I gave Clint my pick, so it was a pretty pathetic little area. Then I spent the rest of the day fishing. I hit fishing level 9, which is awesome. I'm sitting on a bunch of fish I don't want to sell until I hit 10, so once we do, we'll have a nice little cash infusion. Day 10 was a rainy day, and if you can't guess exactly what I did for the vast majority of the day, then you probably haven't really been watching. I did, however, make a quick stop to give Vincent some bread that I found in his mom's trash can. How dare they waste this delicious loaf? He seemed to like it. I also checked the rest of the trash around the town, as you do, and found the one, the only, the trash hat. I actually considered just uploading, I played 10 days of Stardew Valley, caught the legend, and found the trash hat, but that's a really long title. So instead, I bought some bait from Willie and went back to fishing for the rest of the day. The sweet call of oblivion found me on the shore of the river at 2 a.m., and I passed out in the mud right outside Leah's cabin. Day 11 was a rainy day, and if you can't guess exactly Wait, no, that was yesterday. Today, I picked my green bean and loaded my inventory with gifts for the apples, and also for Gunther. My pickaxe was done today, and despite it being an unlucky day when I should have just fished all day, I was itching to get into the mines. I had already reached fishing 9 and caught most of what I needed for spring. Sure, I could fish for money and energy, and I probably should have, but what's life if you don't break your own rules sometimes? So I dropped off a whole bunch of fish and crops at the community center before diving back into the mines once more. I often forget to kill 10 green slimes, so I made it a goal to take care of that quest today, and I also wanted a bunch of bug meat, so I hunted down those ugly little grubs too. It was a tough slog with my terrible luck, but there was one really important thing that happened on floor 19 at 5:40 p.m., day 11 of spring, year 1. I found an ancient seed from killing bugs. At this point, I realized I was probably going to have to turn over my save file to Concerned Apes fact checkers because this was getting a little bit silly. I ended up getting a magnet ring instead of a weapon on floor 20, which was fine, but I only made it to level 26 before it was time to go home for a little nap. I loaded up my inventory with stuff I wanted to take back home, and I broke some rocks on floor 1 for a tiny bit more resources before passing out. Again, as always. Day 12 was a good luck day, so I really wanted to get into the mines quickly. However, it was also a traveling cart day, and I also really wanted to get my ancient seed in the ground. So I cleared up some land on the farm, took care of my crops, and did my rounds. I found that the traveling cart had absolutely nothing of value, as is tradition. So I crushed some geodes, donated a bunch of stuff to the museum, and got my ancient seed packet. My best weapon at the moment was a crystal spire, and that was just truly awful. I made my way into the Adventurers Guild and bought a proper silver saber and dove back into the mines. I traversed the dreaded dark levels, which kind of aren't really that bad when you have a glow ring, and made my way into iron territory. This is fantastic news because we're going to need a lot of iron for our sprinkler layout. Now, you may have noticed that I don't have a ton of crops planted. In fact, a lot of what I do have planted is just forage. And you may be thinking to yourself, has he even hit farming level 2? The answer to that question is no, I haven't. But it's okay. We will eventually explode up in farming levels. We just have to trust the process. And also hope that we don't get a lot of crows eating our rice, because I kind of need those to grow. Anyway, since I had no money in my pockets and had gained a combat level today, I ended my evening by breaking rocks on floor 1 for more resources. Tasty, tasty stone. You'll love to see it. Day 13 was a wild seed harvest day. Very exciting. This also meant that I could start preparing my layout for the sprinklers today. I still couldn't make sprinklers, but I prepared my field, then watered spaces for strawberries. Oh yeah, there's something else happening today, isn't there? I'm only going to be able to afford 81 strawberries, which is a little less than I had planned for, but we should be able to make it work. I trounced Abigail with 13 eggs before sneaking back into town to go to the community center. I told Linus that digging in the trash is always ethical, then got my 20 speed grow for completing the spring crops bundle. I planted and fertilized my strawberries, pet Pilfy's brainless head, and then went to bed. Day 14 was a big one for one simple reason. I finally hit 2 hearts with Caroline, so I got to see her tea scene. Why is everyone in this town trying to talk me into their great tea opportunities? Come on, guys. Beyond that, though, it was a pretty boring day. I spent all day grinding for iron and copper in preparation for farming level 2 when I could build sprinklers. On day 15, I had a letter from Caroline in the mail teaching me how to make tea saplings. I also hit farming level 2 from my rice harvest, so I could get sprinkling tomorrow. Gosh, I'm sorry, that was really lame. I made a bunch of tea saplings, then I went to the mines where I killed a special slime and got a forest sword. Then I tried to pause OBS to talk to my wife, and my recording crashed, so that's cool. But I can tell you that I made it to floor 65 that day and planted a single coffee bean that I found from a dust sprite. I also sold my tea saplings for a nice little profit. On day 16, I finally started to get some sprinklers down. I couldn't cover all my crops yet, but we were off to a good start. After that, I considered going to the mines, but because it was another rainy spring day and I was pretty close to hitting fishing level 10, I decided to hang out at the river all day. I did hit fishing 10, then tried to get over to snag Robin's axe, but passed out before I could. I selected the angler profession here as I wanted more money. Since I hit fishing 10 the day before, I sold a lot of stinky fish on day 17. Because nothing is sacred in this run, I even sold the legend for 11,250 gold. I felt a little bad about that because it would be cool to throw him in a fish tank, but I have other priorities on this farm, so off he went. After that, it was back to the mines. I needed more of pretty much everything for my sprinklers, but I also wanted to make some progress. I ended up getting a bone sword, so I sold off a bunch of junk to Marlin, and I made it to floor 85. Gold levels. Not bad. I continued to craft and place more sprinklers on day 18. I was finally getting to the point where I wouldn't need to water things anymore, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited. It was a bad luck day, but I still tried to make some progress in the mines. I even found a mushroom floor. Neat. Once I hit level 90, I grinded lower level floors for some ore, for more sprinklers, then I ran to the bar and gave Pam a parsnip for her birthday. Because I was feeling generous, I even got Shane a beer while I was there. To round off a fabulous day, I completed the boiler room and I used some of the cash I got from Mr. Legend to buy the 25,000 gold bundle in the vault. Overnight, the apple folk danced the minecarts back into working. Thanks? Day 19 was a Friday, so I checked the traveling cart and got absolutely nothing, surprise surprise. There was a seafoam pudding, which was kind of tempting for the glacier fish eventually, but I passed on it. I did some geode cracking and museum donating, then I put my axe in for an upgrade and handed out some gifts before hitting the mines. I finally made it to floor 100 and got my first star drop. It reminded me of the grind, which I thought was cute and funny when I made the farm, but now, writing and recording, it just reminds me that I'm grinding myself down to nothing. Neat. I only made it to floor 105 before needing to head home, where I cleared out my quarry and went to bed. I leveled up foraging, mining, and combat today, and picked the scout perk for combat, which is something I don't always do. How fun. Day 20 was a harvest day for those speed grow strawberries. Always a good feeling. I kept the gold ones for gifts and sold the others. Then it was back to the mines. I was making gold bars all day, and I found some cool but useless purple shoes and a very, very nice weapon in the slammer. I really love that thing. With one of my favorite weapons in hand, I made it to the bottom of the mines today and I got the skull key. You won't catch me playing arcade games, but I'll need that in the desert soon. It was also Shane's birthday, so I grabbed him a beer before checking my bat cave for a whole bunch of goodies and getting some much-deserved rest. I was very happy with my progress at this point. Day 21 was another strawberry day, this time the larger bunch. I also filled out the rest of my field today. I officially did not need to water anything anymore. What a great feeling. To celebrate, I decided to go shopping at the traveling cart. It was all garbage again though, except she had that same sea foam pudding. You can't trick me. I realized at this point that I didn't have 5 gold parsnips, and I quickly donned my clown costume and bought a bunch from Pierre. I also picked up my copper axe and handed over my pickaxe for the gold upgrade. Nice. Even though it was a good luck rainy day, I spent most of my time clearing up the farm a little bit before heading to the community center to complete the vault bundle. Soon, we would have access to the Skull Cavern, and then the real fun would begin. Overnight, the apple folk once again did a happy dance that fixed the inner workings of machinery? Modern science truly is amazing. Also, I realized that I hadn't perfectly completed my sprinkler layout after all, so I fixed that right away. After that, it was up to Robins to build a coop. I also gave Demetrius a gold strawberry, handed over to Jade to fulfill a Maru request, and gave her a strawberry too. I spent most of the rest of my day grinding for dust sprite kills to work toward the burglar ring. This is a really boring and repetitive part of the run, but pretty important for future goals. I also love getting coffee beans from these guys. I got another one and planted it at home before cleaning up a bit more around my farm. On day 23, my gold pickaxe was ready and I wanted to upgrade my axe to iron, but I only had 1 iron bar at home. I checked the mines chest, but I didn't have any there either. When Clint finally opened, I grabbed my pick and ran for the mines to try and find enough iron before he closed. Fortunately, despite it being a bad luck day, I found this level at 9:30 and this one at 10:20. So yeah, no problem. I put my axe in for an upgrade so Clint could work on it after Emily turned him down at the dance tomorrow. Then I spent the rest of the day grinding for more copper for furnaces and iron for bars. Day 24 was the flower dance, so I couldn't stray too far from my farm. I spent the morning cleaning up a little bit before joining in on the festivities 20 minutes before closing time, like the jerk I am. I bought the tub of flowers recipe and the rare crow from Pierre before checking out everyone's neat seasonal outfits. Fortunately, I had been keeping Shane liquored up enough this spring that I had someone to dance with, but it was really awkward to go through the dance section without the music. Kinda like some kind of creepy ritual. I still had plenty of time after the dance, so I spent my night grinding for resources in the mines, and I leveled up to 6 in combat. Day 25 brought the return of strawberry harvest, and my parsnips were ready to go too. Bad news though, I only got 3 gold ones. That wasn't the end of the world, but it meant that we would need gold melons, pumpkins, and corn. I was planning to plant all of those, so it would be fine, but I still felt kinda dumb. To shake off my embarrassment, I spent the rest of the day systematically hunting down every dust sprite I could find. I checked my progress with the Adventurers Guild and was highly disappointed to learn that I was only about halfway there. Ugh. On day 26, my coop was done. Hooray! I planted a whole bunch of tree seeds today, quite a bit later than I should have, to be honest. Then I ran to check the traveling cart. She had nothing for me, as is tradition, so I went to Marnie's for some animals. When I got there though, Shane was, I guess, not doing so great, but it's not really my problem, so I just dumped some water on his head and got back to shopping. I bought 4 chickens and named them Chackin, Checkin, Chicken, and Chalkin. I was not feeling creative. I also made my first trip to the Skull Cavern today. I should have been working on the burglar ring, but honestly, I was bored of that. I met Sandy and dove into the Skull Cavern. It was a rare, completely neutral luck day, but I still managed to find a rabbit's foot from a serpent. I got really excited to find a treasure room too, but it just had a white turban. Still pretty cool. I made sure to trade for a desert totem so I could get here more quickly next time, then I used my farm totem to get home. I forgot how far away the statue is on the Four Corners farm though, so I ended up passing out mere inches from my bed. I had reached Foraging 5 though, so I picked Gatherer, of course, and I would wake up with full stamina the next day. In the morning, Emily told me I could use her sewing machine now, so I grabbed some trash from my fishing box and made a trip into town. I made my way to Emily and Haley's house, where I convinced Haley to actually do one chore. Life's tough when you're a blonde, I would know. I turned my trash into a shirt, and my fit was complete. It wasn't even summer, and I was already my trashy self. Excellent. After that, it was back to the Skull Cavern. Nothing fun to report today, but I got a lot of good resources. I ended up trading for more desert totems and spicy eel before heading back to the valley to pace awkwardly outside the saloon. It was Emily's birthday, and I had an aquamarine for her. Technically, since it was 12:50 when she came out, I was a day late, I guess, but she didn't mind. Spring 28, the final day of the season. I had been gathering resources for quality sprinklers, and my strawberries had propelled me to farming level 6. Today I finally crafted and placed them down in preparation for summer. I also visited the traveling cart and got nothing, as always, then planted more trees off the farm today. I need more wood. I spent the rest of the day gathering gold and mining experience. I wanted to make more bars, and eventually level 10 mining would turn into a great source of income. I ended up hitting mining 9 overnight, and I closed the door on spring for the year. It's time for a new season. Day 29 was the first day of summer, and I had a lot to do. I tilled out space for a much larger crop this time. I needed gold melons, gold corn, and lots of crops just in general. It was time to put those quality sprinklers to use. I spent literally all day getting my field ready, and finally finished tilling, watering, and fertilizing everything at 1:30 a.m. Just barely made it, but we made it. Since I finished everything I needed to on the farm yesterday, I made a trip to the Skull Cavern on day 30. It was a good luck day, and I was looking forward to hunting for some iridium. This seems like a good time to talk about that, actually. While bigger fields and artisan goods are more of a passive income in that you plant and then process them, I'm also working on some more active income tasks as well. When we hit mining 10, we'll take the blacksmith profession to increase the sale value of our iridium bars. Obviously, we need iridium to craft with, but we also need money, so it'll be a bit of a balancing act to sell enough bars to progress while saving enough to craft, construct, and upgrade with. For that reason, I'll be in the Skull Cavern a lot. Today, though, I found a couple of things much cooler than iridium. I found an auto grabber, which will save me about 25,000 gold later, and I found a dinosaur floor. I didn't get any dino eggs today, but Pepper Rex are one of the most annoying Protector of the Valley goals to me, so finding these early is really nice. On the iridium front, it actually wasn't a very productive day with only about 60 ores, but those were a couple high points of the day. On day 31, I stopped by Robin's to buy the stone path recipe and get a silo started. I wanted to decorate at some point, and I had way more stone than wood. Plus, I need a silo, so. After that, I completed my summer forage bundle, handed out some gifts around town, and crafted a couple mayo makers for my farm. It was a bit of a slower paced day compared to the last two, and that was just fine with me. Day 32 wasn't a very good luck day, so I spent it doing some chores that had been kind of piling up. I spent some time killing dust sprites, since that's kind of a long-term goal. I also made sure to smelt some more bars while I was up there, since I'm going to need huge amounts of iron, gold, and quartz before fall. Then I donated some items to the museum, checked the beach for a cockle, did not find a cockle, and dropped off some gifts. It was Jazz's birthday and I didn't have a gift, so I walked roughly 50 feet from where she was standing to grab her a flower. She thought that was great. After that, it was back to the dust sprite grind. I was absolutely in tears to find out that I had only reached about 300 sprite kills, but that is what happens when you don't actually do this. Time to absolutely destroy them before I burn out and give up. When it got a little later, I headed back to the farm to clear out part of my bottom left field. We'll be using that soon. And then I started some basic pathing around the front of my house. Cute! On day 33, I began placing sprinklers in the lower left field. It was almost time. Then I checked the traveling cart, and would you believe it if I told you she had absolutely nothing of value. It was also a rainy day, so I went to get the red snapper for the community center. I got a couple of the snappers fairly early in the day in a bubble spot, but I was still getting some really cheap fish, so instead of sticking around for the money, I went to go get a sturgeon. I snagged one of those with no problem, so I ran around talking to friends and giving gifts before turning in a whole bunch of donations to the community center. Also, I expanded the sprinklers a little bit. It's starting to look a little intimidating down there. I finally found a snail in my crab pot this morning. Oh my gosh, I could have bought that lobster all those weeks ago. On day 34, I spent my morning getting absolutely thrashed by the stupid octopus. I was at the beach for tilapia, which I missed yesterday, and a pufferfish, but I just got absolutely wrecked by this stupid thing. It's so annoying. I did catch my pufferfish and tilapia, but I never managed the octopus. I'll have to come back for it another day. How embarrassing. I talked to people again and handed out some gifts before completing the crab pot bundle, finally, in summer. I made a quick trip to the oasis to snag a sandfish, some forage, and some wood, then came back to the valley to have a beer with Shane and catch the woodskip. That's another bundle complete. On day 35, I killed dust sprites. That's kind of it. I guess I smelted some more bars and put my hoe in for an upgrade. Oh, and I bankrupted myself buying explosive ammo for reasons. Day 36 was a rainy, bad luck day, and it also happened to be Gus's birthday. I didn't have any oranges, so I planned to give him a diamond. But first, time to grind for dust sprite kills, and ooh, baby, was it worth it. I found a prismatic shard. That meant taking a quick trip to the desert to get myself a galaxy sword. I did some more wholesale slaughter, taking a short break to give Gus his birthday diamond, and I found 3 more coffee beans. You might not know this about me, but I love coffee. I would take a speed buff over just about anything else in the game, and my fields, they are a-growing. I will end up having a lot of coffee by the end of this summer, mark my word. Speaking of coffee, day 38 was a harvest for a few different crops, including coffee, and I replaced those crops with coffee. That was kind of my plan for summer. My other plan for summer was diving in Skull Cavern on lucky days, and wouldn't you know it, today was lucky. Ironically, this lucky day was actually not as great as my neutral luck day. However, I did find a prismatic shard, which I could either donate or save up for some magic rock candy. Other than that, though, it was a pretty remarkably unremarkable day. I was a little bummed, to be honest. The best part of the day actually came overnight when I hit level 10 mining and selected the blacksmith profession. Now I could begin selling bars to supplement my crop income. Neat. On day 38, I expanded my secondary field and finally planted some crops down there, just some summer seeds for now. I want the foraging experience and the grapes for Vincent. I've been making tea saplings here and there for cash, but it's not a major source of income for me since I need to save some fiber and wood. It was Maru's birthday today, so I dropped off a gold strawberry for her and for Demetrius, and I got that weird scene where he tries to bully me. I ignored him though and decided that maybe I would marry Maru this run. I don't do that very often, and I hadn't decided who I would marry yet. After that, I dropped off a bunch of stuff at the museum, including my prismatic shard, and handed out gifts around town. Then it was back to Sprite City. All my work on days 32, 35, and 36 finally paid off. I managed to secure the burglar ring by about 5 p.m., and headed back into the mines to work on the Shadow Brute goal, and reached level 9 combat by the end of the day. Not bad. Day 39 was another day of field expansion. I'm just going to call this Field 2, even though it's like my 4th separate growing area, whatever. I put down a lot of summer seeds, and got a scarecrow in place to protect more coffee beans down there. It was going to be wild. I did chores all morning, planting crops, taking care of my chickens, smelting more bars, and then I used a beach totem to teleport into the luau like it was no big deal. And apparently it wasn't, since no one even noticed. I threw a gold cauliflower into the pot, which the governor loved, then spent the rest of the night grinding for gold and shadow person kills. I kinda wanted to be done with this goal before meeting Krobus, because otherwise it feels a little awkward. On day 40, I finished getting scarecrows in place in Field 2 and planted a whole bunch more summer seeds. My chickens had finally given me large eggs, which was neat, but it also reminded me that I needed to get moving on my barn. I checked the traveling merchant and was unsurprised to see nothing of value, so I ran over to Robin's and got that barn started. I also told Maru a story about farming, gave Linus a coconut, and spent the rest of the day grinding for ore in the mines. Before going to bed, I put tappers on a few more oak trees. It was a pretty relaxing day. Day 41 was a melon harvest day, and I got way more gold melons than I needed. I also snagged an orange from the Batcave, which was nice for the bundle, but I kinda wish I could've given it to Gus. I dropped off some items at the community center and gave Alex a rabbit's foot for his birthday. I hate Alex's birthday. Then I dropped off some donations at the museum and sold my day's harvest. I wanted starfruit next, so I hopped on the bus to the desert. You see, Field 2 was going to be my big moneymaker. I couldn't fill it today, but I made a good start. I spent the rest of the day giving gifts and grinding in the mines for more resources. I also found a mushroom floor. Neat. Overnight, I hit farming level 8, which meant I could craft kegs. Double neat. Day 42 was a blueberry day. I love that noise. I really do. It was also a traveling cart day, and I bought a rare seed since I knew I wanted at least 2 of those anyway. Thanks, I guess. It was also a lucky day and a Sunday. I grabbed my jade, ran to the desert, and traded them all for staircases. It was an okay dive. I found some artichoke seeds. Cool. But I threw them away, because I didn't have the space. I found a prismatic shard though, which I definitely did not throw away. I was really hoping to get 3 of these to trade for some magic rock candy. I ended up finding 2, which was close, but not quite enough. Between the good luck, my staircases, and plenty of bombs and explosive ammo, I made it to floor 66 and scooped up about 120 iridium ore. Turned into bars, that would be worth 36,000 gold, so not bad for a day's work. Day 43 was an important day. I needed to raise a lot of money today, like, kind of a lot. I needed 90,000 gold to buy the rest of the starfruit I wanted, but I woke up with only about 23,000. Fortunately, I am a bit of a hoarder. I had enough supplies to make 20 tea saplings, and I sold 10 cloth I'd gathered from mummies, as well as a bunch of random crops. That brought me up over 40,000. Next up, I cracked geodes, donated the new stuff, and sold the duplicate gems and artifacts, as well as those 24 iridium bars I was talking about earlier. That brought me over 83,500. Finally, I sold 132 Void Essence, which brought me over 90,000. I used a desert totem because I could not afford the 500 gold to take the bus, and I bought 225 starfruit from Sandy. I spent the rest of the night tilling, planting, and watering them, but I passed out before I could water 88 of them. That was a bit of a problem, since today was the last day to plant them. Teehee. Day 44 started with a visit from Gunther. I had finally donated 60 items, and he gave me the rusty key to the sewer. But first, I needed to get some fertilizer for my starfruit. I could still make this work if I used speed grow on the crops that didn't get watered yesterday. The problem was I didn't have any money. But I did have more iridium bars smelting overnight. So I made a couple visits around town, told Abigail that I don't play video games, and bought enough speed grow to cover my needs. I realized I was also going to need a lot of batteries, so I crafted a bunch of lightning rods today too. I also had a quest from Maru to give her a Joja Cola, so I ran to the saloon to get one, but then I realized it was just too late in the day, so I drank it. What an idiot. I finished up my day by expanding my little path and cutting down trees and cinder sap until I passed out. I hit level 7 foraging, and I didn't really have any money to lose. Win-win. I kind of forgot about Krogue though. On day 45, I cleared some space to move my barn since it was in a really annoying spot down there, and then I visited Clint. I sold him a bunch of iridium to raise money for a barn upgrade and for some cows, which were next on my list. I named them Ka, Q, Ke, and Cow. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Again, not feeling super creative. After that, it was off to the Skull Cavern. I traded in some diamonds for triple shots, some rubies for spicy eel, and plunged into the depths. I made a very embarrassing mistake on floor 26 and ran straight to the stairs, even though there was a drop shaft available, but it turned out to be not a huge deal because on floor 39, I got a prismatic shard from a serpent. Nice. Now that I had 3, I could trade them for a magic rock candy and get that huge luck buff for another dive later. I was so excited that I ran to do that, but you can't. You can only do it on Thursdays. Day 46 was, in fact, a Thursday. So, after harvesting some crops and taking care of my animals, I headed to the desert to snag a magic rock candy and give Sandy a flower. After that, the whole day was ahead of me, so I just kind of wandered around. I started my gold axe upgrade and I put some pathing around my tree farm, and I really regret using the gravel flooring. I hate the way it sounds, and I was going to have to listen to that for the rest of this playthrough. That's a big L. On day 47, I harvested a large batch of summer forage and turned them back into a ludicrous 175 summer seeds. Then I wandered around town handing out random gifts to villagers. I learned that the people really do love corn. I bought a couple goats and named them Gat and Geet. I also checked the traveling merchant and was surprised to find a truffle. I strongly considered buying it. I could basically skip the final barn upgrade if I needed to, but I didn't do it. I like piggies. I wasn't sure if that would come back to bite me. On day 48, I picked up my axe from Clint and gave him my hoe to upgrade to iron. I also started a barn upgrade since I need those piggies soon, and then I headed to the Skull Cavern. It was a good luck day and I was going to eat my candy. Magic rock candy is truly something else. I hit a treasure room on floor 18, Omni Geodes, floor 20, Prismatic Shard, floor 33, White Turban, found another Prismatic Shard on floor 56, and I made it to floor 85 before passing out. I got nearly 150 iridium ore from this trip, so I would consider it a good day. I was hoping to get 3 more Prismatic Shards so I could just get another Magic Rock candy, but I only found 2. Bummer. Day 49 was a Sunday, which meant traveling cart, disappointment, but also a good luck day, so I took my jade to the desert for staircases and made another push into the mines. Even without the magic rock candy I wanted, I did manage to find 1 prismatic shard from an iridium node on floor 50, which meant I could get my candy again. Yay! I also got a dino egg from a Pepper Rex on floor 67, which was a momentous occasion to be sure. I ended up getting to floor 74 and snagging 145 iridium ore, so it was another very successful run in my book. On day 50, I didn't record day 50, but thanks to my extensive notes, I can tell you that I picked up my steel hoe, started a coop upgrade, made a bunch of tappers, handed out gifts, and cut down trees. I specifically remember, right before I went to bed at 1:50, I made sure to look at the camera and give a little heart emote, so just pretend that happened, I guess. We're halfway through now, but there's no time to slow down. I still have a ton of goals left to accomplish, so let's push forward. Today, I sold a bunch of produce to upgrade my bag. I was feeling cramped with only 24 slots, so this will really help in future Skull Cavern dives. I also put in my pickaxe for its final upgrade to iridium. What a great feeling. Other than that, I spent most of the day handing out gifts, cutting down trees, and I planted a whole bunch of tree seeds up by the spa. We're gonna need a ton of wood for the next phase of the game. I made my first 9 kegs today and got some coffee started. There's gonna be a lot more where that came from. On day 52, I still didn't have my pickaxe, obviously, so I had to find something else to do. My coop was upgraded, but I promptly forgot all about that for about another week. You might recall that I got absolutely jebaited by the octopus like 14 times in a row earlier this month. Well, today it was time for revenge. I grabbed some fishing food, a bunch of fishing gear, and headed down to the beach with a handy-dandy warp totem to try to catch my nemesis. It was surprisingly quite easy. I caught the second one I hooked. After that, I headed to the river to catch a couple other fish I was missing for summer, ran back down to the ocean to give Willie the octopus I caught earlier for his birthday, and hurried to the river to catch the Dorado. The only other two summer fish I needed were the super cucumber and the crimson fish, so I got some wood together, fixed the bridge, and caught my second legendary fish of the run. Once again, because nothing is sacred, I sold him. Teehee. Overnight, I hit farming 10 and picked up artisan. Here we go. Day 53 was a good luck day and my iridium pick was going to be ready. I also had started my coffee stockpile, and it was a Thursday. That meant I could trade for magic rock candy. It was shaping up to be a fine day. I had some quick chores first, including selling some iridium bars, switching my pick for my axe at Clint's, and buying a sheep and a pig. I named the pig Peg to follow in tradition, and I named the sheep Danny after my wife, because she loves the sheep. Then it was off to the desert. I traded for some magic rock candy and some other goodies, then got started. Today was not as exciting as I had hoped. I found a treasure floor on 55 with life elixirs, and I got one prismatic shard from an iridium node. I did get over 160 iridium before passing out on floor 91, but it was an otherwise kind of unremarkable day. One neat thing though was that I hit combat level 10 and I picked up acrobat overnight. On day 54, the first of my starfruit ripened. I harvested it and replaced the spots with coffee beans. They wouldn't grow in time, but they would keep the ground tilled in water when the season changed, and honestly that was just as valuable. I won't be making any starfruit wine just yet. I need to work through more of my coffee stores first, but that will eventually be a huge source of income for us. I also gathered up enough wood to upgrade my house, but forgot that I had no money. So I handed out some gifts and sold a bunch of stuff to Pierre before heading back up north to start the upgrade. I checked the traveling merchant and I bought nothing. Then I spent the rest of the day handing out gifts, smelting iridium bars, and killing dust sprites for coal. It felt nostalgic somehow. Day 55 was a very lucky day, and I didn't have much I needed to accomplish, so I made an early trip to the Skull Cavern. I found my third white turban on floor 16 today. Could we just stop with this? I got really excited on floor 70 when I saw a machine coming out of the chest, but it was just a seed maker. Better than another turban, I guess. Other than that, though, it was a pretty standard day. Despite actually having some money in my pocket, I decided to stay as late as possible. If I could get even 5 more iridium ore by staying, it would be worth more than getting to bed on time. So I very strategically passed out while a bomb was going off on floor 97, heading home with over 120 iridium in my backpack. Day 56 was the last day of summer. I started my day by smelting more bars in the mines before running out of coal. That is super sad. I also had my final summer harvest back on the farm, and it was a doozy. Over 200 starfruit were ready. Some of them were ready yesterday, but I was busy. And I had thousands of coffee beans to fill all the empty spaces on my farm. We would go into fall with our field ready for planting. Even after all that, my coffee bean stores were near 3,000, so I had plenty of work for my kegs to do before we even started with the starfruit. I hadn't checked the bat cave in a bit, and I leveled up to 9 from all the fruit in there. We were getting close to hitting level 10 in every skill by the end of summer, so I was well on track to finish that up by the end of the run. I also got the rarest dialogue in all of Stardew Valley today at Marnie's, where she thought I was Lewis. It was extra spicy because Shane was standing 5 feet away. I saw the blue chicken cutscene too, but who cares compared to that dialogue? I checked the traveling cart and got no red cabbage again, so I was starting to actually get a little worried. I spent the rest of the day cleaning up and doing chores before heading to the beach for the moonlight jellies. Despite this festival not really offering much in terms of shopping or hearts, I still find it very peaceful and pretty enjoyable. That night, I said goodbye to summer and welcomed in the best season in Stardew Valley. On fall 1st, day 57, my house was big. Neat. More importantly, it was planting day. I'd been saving up a lot of iridium for sprinklers, and today I was planning to redo my primary field layout to be a little more attractive. I did want to decorate at least a little in this run. Fortunately for me, I used spreadsheets to figure out my planting, so I was able to sell some iridium bars to Clint, and I had exactly 27 gold left by the time I bought all my seeds. The rest of my day was just clearing out the fields, tilling and watering tiles that were changing from the summer layout, and putting down our crop. The second field, the big one, that had 500 pumpkins this season, and I was already Scrooge McDuck in my dreams that night, diving into my cash. On day 58, I was press ganged by Lewis into doing more chores for the village and chose to hunt down bug guts instead of growing 100 bok choy. If I hadn't just planted my entire field yesterday, I mean, come on. I scared Maru at work when I tried to ask her to be my GF. Because I was mad with Lewis, I took Sam's side in an argument that day, then I bought the triple shot espresso recipe. That'll be pretty useful in a bit. I spent the rest of my day killing bugs for their guts and found another ancient seed. Can't plant it now, but when we get the greenhouse, it'll be nice to have. Day 59 was a rainy day, which meant I should probably do some fishing. But first, I bought a couple of ducks. This was way later than I was planning, but I had simply walked in and out of my coop every day for a week without realizing I never bought them. So I got 2 of them, Dak and Deck. I didn't want to buy a third because, I didn't want to name a duck Dick. This was a terrible plan. I also grabbed Lewis's shorts while I was at Marnie's. Spicy. After that, I visited Maru, where I was electrocuted. I went fishing for walleye and the angler and turned in some community center items. I had enough bugs for Willie's gross request, so I dropped those off and passed out at the beach. Overnight, a witch cursed my coop. Spoopy. On day 60, I caught a tiger trout and a salmon early in the day, and I cooked the recipes I needed for Gus's bulletin board request. I had enough apples for Marnie too, so I dropped off a bunch of stuff and completed the fishing bundle entirely. Hooray! I also cracked geodes and made donations, and finally took all of my museum rewards home, where I made a little display room of my own. I threw more tappers on trees and made some fences to decorate the layout around my primary field. I gotta say, it doesn't look too bad. That night, the apples told the Shining Rock that it was time to leave town, and soon the rivers would be full of ore. On day 61, the traveling cart had nothing for me, but that's okay because I didn't want to complete the community center anyway. I'm honestly not sure what I did today, other than hand out gifts, buy a bunch of explosive ammo, and work on Monster Slayer goals. Even watching my footage back, it kind of looks like I'm just wandering around, so go me. Day 62, though, that was a good one. It was a good luck day, and I didn't have many chores, so I made a quick run for the Skull Cavern. Exciting things from today include, but are not limited to, a purple slime egg and a treasure floor. Very cool, but still not an auto petter. A dino floor on floor 69. Very nice. And 2 prismatic shards. I don't remember why I tried so hard to sell stuff, but I passed out mere inches from my shipping bin with only 30 bucks to my name. On day 63, I got a letter from Demetrius with a bream in it, and for some reason my game just kept crashing over and over and over until the letter had a nautilus shell in it, and it was so strange. Unfortunately, all that resetting did not help with the traveling cart, but when I got back to my farm, Leah gave me a weird sculpture. I have a special plan for that statue, by the way. After turning in a bunch of donations today, I worked on the club card quest since my beets were ready to harvest. We love fetch quests in this house. I re-gifted my statue from Leah to Pam while I was out. This will force Pam to move more quickly through the town toward the bus stop, and it will let Leah know that I'm already spoken for this time. Day 64 was a cranberry day. While that's not exceptionally important for us on this file, the sound of harvesting them is just oh so satisfying. I've also been making seeds for my strawberries for a while, but started making more fall seeds instead. I want that foraging level, dang it. I also hit friendship level 10 with Maru just by talking with her today, so I left the building and came back in to watch her super weird 10-heart scene. This one is, it's out there. Next time we get a rainy day, I'll be able to buy a mermaid pendant now. Woohoo! I finally caved and bought a bunch of coal from Clint today, and I also started a coop upgrade. I really needed a shed more than a coop at this point, but I do like the auto feeder upgrade. Before bed, I accepted the prismatic jelly quest from the wizard. That guy is into some weird stuff. Day 65 was another good luck day. I got all my chores done and packed for a trip. Before my dive, though, I gave Sandy a flower and stopped in to meet Mr. Key. I was unimpressed. Despite it being a good luck day, I felt like the whole day was kind of lame. I got 15 cherry bombs from a treasure floor and a prismatic shard on 67, but I don't know, it felt underwhelming. I guess maybe my expectations are too high at this point. I tried to do another cool move with a bomb at 150, but it didn't work, so I passed out with about 100 iridium in my bag, which was a bit of a disappointment at this point. Day 66 was a peaceful day. I did some foraging and noticed that Leah was not taking the hint very well. I also saw that I'd be getting rain tomorrow, so I could buy the mermaid pendant and propose. Nice. I had finally worked through my coffee bean supplies at this point, so I started switching over to starfruit wine. I still needed lots of oak resin, but I was getting more and more all the time back on the farm. I like to find an infested floor, if possible, for the prismatic jelly quest, so I checked the first few floors around some of the deeper elevators just in case. I started with 81 and 82, but didn't have any luck. Then I went from 91 to 94, nothing there either. Then I went to 101 and checked there, and at 102, I found a slime floor. I spent most of the day digging from 101 to 102 and killing slimes or taking screenshots, but I never found the jelly. Day 67 was a rainy day, so I could get the pendant. But it was also a Thursday, and I had 3 prismatic shards, so I went to get a magic rock candy first. After that, though, I bought a rabbit from Marnie and named it Tony. I was finally feeling creative. I snagged the pendant from Maru and skipped through cutscene after cutscene from other marriage candidates before finally proposing to her. We were going to get married in 3 days. I cannot imagine the stress of that wedding planning. Fortunately, I don't have to, so I'm going back to the mines. I wasn't lucky enough to find another infested floor today, so I just kind of wandered around different areas of mine. I found another ancient seed, but no prismatic jelly. I was concerned. On day 68, I finally Finally got the red cabbage seeds from the traveling cart. Oh, thank you, traveling cart lady and pig. I'll never talk smack about you again until my next run. I spent the rest of my day unsuccessfully trying to find that stupid prismatic jelly. Pathetic. I wish I could say that day 69 was a nice day, but it really wasn't. Sure, I made a ton of money today selling a bunch of my crops to Pierre, but I still hadn't found the prismatic jelly by the end of the day, and I crawled into bed at 1:50 a.m. a failure. Yikes. On day 70, I got married, which is pretty cool, but it was also a pumpkin harvest day, which is kind of cooler. 500 delicious pumpkins ready to go. The reason I had sold so much of my stuff yesterday was because I had a very large purchase to make today, or rather a couple. I checked the traveling cart, more out of habit than anything, then turned in my gold and normal pumpkins to complete the pantry and finished the Enchanter's bundle too. For those of you keeping track at home, that means I need to finish Winter Forage and the dye bundle, and that is it. Not bad. After that, I bought another 500 pumpkins to replace the ones I just harvested, and I bought the supplies I needed to make 100 preserve jars. Listen, I know I could simply cut down trees and break rocks and whatever, but this is an investment, okay? Those pumpkins are going to be pickled, and the tunnel is going to be a terrifying wiggly nightmare. Oh, I also hit the 1 million gold mark while selling iridium bars to Clint today. I spent the rest of my day trying and failing to get the prismatic jelly. It was over. I failed. Even the Junimos wiggling my greenhouse back to normal couldn't help my mood. Yeah, actually, it could. On day 71, my greenhouse was ready. Maru also reminded me that tomorrow was a Stardew Valley fair. I planted all the winter seeds I had made from winter roots in my greenhouse in hopes of completing the winter forage bundle early, and I threw my 13 ancient seeds and my red cabbage in there for good measure. I filled in a bunch of spots with strawberries for Maru, and I visited Sandy for her birthday. She wanted a Joja Cola for some reason, and I gave her that and a flower. Happy birthday, Sandy. I also picked up Robin's project as a special order this week. 80 hardwood was manageable, but I still needed hardwood for my house and for the boat, so we'll see if I turn this one in. Day 72 was the Stardew Valley Fair, and it was a cursed day. I mean, I blew Pierre out of the water with my display, easy, but I bet on green and lost so many times that I had to play the slingshot game like 5, 6, 7 times? I actually don't know. And listen, y'all, I'm not good at the slingshot game. It was a frustrating day, but I got my tasty star drop and I got my rare crow. For some reason, that starfruit makes me feel like I'm forgetting something. Day 73 was a wine and pickles day. This doesn't happen often, but when it does, we make a lot of money. I spent my day restocking and building more kegs and chopping down and replanting trees. I also started my watering can upgrade. It was a good day, money-wise. The pumpkin pickles are selling for just under 100,000 every 4 days at this point, and the wine will vary depending on how many kegs I have at any given time. It took us 3 months to hit our first 1 million gold, and I just earned a fifth of that today. Not bad at all. On day 74, I had another cranberry harvest. Neat. Some of these will eventually become jelly when the pumpkins run out. I focused on gifting and foraging today. I need hardwood for Robin and for other projects, but I also just want to hit foraging 10. I started a shed today, and also bought the Galaxy Hammer with my pickle and wine money. By the way, I haven't been showing every trip to the Adventurers Guild, but here's a good place to check in. I still need to finish slimes, void spirits, bats, skeletons, 24 pepper X, not bad, and only 16 serpents. That is pretty good. Day 75 was a day of more foraging for hardwood, more Protector of the Valley questing, and more pickles. There's not much to say here, other than that things were in full swing. It was a very good day at the 3/4 mark. Making 100,000 every few days on those pickles was feeling very nice, and I had 500 more pumpkins growing in the field still. I was happy. Especially when I hit foraging level 10 overnight and picked Botanist. I love Iridium Forage. Honestly, the best part is the inventory management. I have a confession to make about day 76, and it's actually a confession about a different day. I have no idea when I bought the star drop from Krogue, but I realized while watching this one back that when I went to visit him, the star drop wasn't in his inventory, so at some point I did that, I guess. Today though, I watched my father-in-law get in the stupidest argument I have ever seen. Then upgraded my shed and went to the desert to try to kill some serpents for the Protector of the Valley goal. But I found a Pepper Rex floor. And on floor 14, I inched ever closer to that goal instead. But somehow, I didn't manage to find 14 serpents. Embarrassing, really. On day 77, I got my snow yam and crocus from the greenhouse. That meant that the only things, and I mean the only things left, were a duck feather and a red cabbage. I had some red cabbage growing and I had 2 ducks in the coop, so I was feeling good about completing the community center before winter, which was a goal I had set at the beginning, right? Unfortunately, you might remember I bought those ducks kind of late. So it was kind of getting pretty close to winter already. I decided to switch my profession to coop master temporarily to try to speed things up. Then I went to go try again with the whole serpent thing. I did manage it this time by about 6:30, so I headed back to the valley to get my napalm ring. Just slimes, bats, and pepper Rex left, until I get to Ginger Island at least. Overnight, the Junimos wiggled and jiggled so hard that the quarry bridge poofed back into existence, which meant I could start moving my kegs soon. Neat. Day 78 was a good luck day, so I made a trip to the Skull Cavern, as you do. Today, I had a goal: get an auto-petter. I had so much explosive ammo, so many bombs, a magic rock candy, all the time in the world. I hit my first treasure floor at 11:20 a.m., and I was gifted 4 quality sprinklers? I ate my magic rock candy at about this point. The buff doesn't last forever, and I wanted it in effect for the deeper levels rather than the first few floors. I hadn't tried this before, but I figured it was worth a shot. I don't know if it was. But I was quickly rewarded with another useless treasure floor with 5 Omnigeodes. Who is packing these stupid chests? More importantly, I found a dino level on floor 51. I think I was at 37 dinos before this run, and there were 10 in this room alone. We are very close. My next treasure floor was on 64, and this one was another auto grabber. That's actually acceptable. I'll take that over some quartz any day. My final treasure floor and last chance at an auto petter was on floor 100. We did it! Sure, I didn't get the iridium milk because I don't have the quest yet, but this was one of my goals, so I was happy, regardless of Mr. Key's feelings on the matter. The chest was a slime egg, by the way. No auto petters for me. The 216 iridium ore I brought home helped heal the wound in my heart, though. On day 79, I started moving stuff into my upgraded shed. That's kind of it. That's my day. I moved all my chests, furnaces, artisan machines, and everything into the shed. And I arranged things in color-coded boxes. It was one of my favorite days of the entire run. Oh, also, more pickles and wine were ready today, but I passed out trying to fill my preserves jars. Day 80 was another relaxing day. I finished putting more stuff in jars and put down some torches so I could see better in the tunnel. I checked to see that I was within 10% of my slime killing goal and only had like 9 more bats to kill. Then I started clearing out the quarry. That would eventually be the home of my kegs. Because I had switched my profession to Coop Master temporarily though, I saved my pickles and wine. For now. I offered up a sweet gemberry to Old Master Cannoli on day 81 and got a sweet Stardew in return. I also bought more rabbits and named them Portia and Wesley. And then I continued moving my kegs to the quarry and started a tree farm in the oasis. We're gonna need more wood, but fall is slowly coming to a close and trees don't grow in the winter in Pelican Town. On day 82, I created a fire hazard in my shed by adding open flames to the floor, then I wandered around town, cutting down trees and handing out gifts. I knew I needed a lot of hardwood for multiple projects and I had really been slacking, so I tried to get a handle on it here. Since I was going to need a lot of normal wood as well, I continued planting more trees in the oasis. I finished my day by handing out gifts and hunting down the golden scythe. I didn't really need it, but I didn't have it yet, and that's reason enough to go get it. Day 83 was my second pumpkin harvest and it was glorious. But first I have to give Maru a strawberry. Okay, 500 beautiful pumpkins to turn into pickles, which, by the way, were ready to be refilled today. I also slightly adjusted the preserves jars in the tunnel because I would load in on top of one and it was just kind of weird and inconvenient. When I got back home, Maru gave me the spouse star drop, so it was shaping up to be a great day. I actually spent the rest of the day getting hardwood and processing crops into seeds with a few new seed makers in the shed. I wanted to plant some winter seeds outside in a few days, and I just had too much of some crops, especially flowers. I hate that the colors don't stack. When that was all done, I headed over to the Spirits Eve Festival. I talked to everyone so I could see their really cool costumes, and then I got my golden pumpkin and got the heck out of Spooky Town. Day 84 was the final day of fall. We're finally coming down the home stretch. I plan to move some things around in the winter, so I cleaned up the space to the left of my farmhouse before harvesting the last cranberry crop of the year. Then I was off to check on my coop, and finally, I had a duck feather. I had wanted to avoid getting more than 2 ducks since my naming process would have kind of ruined things, but that was a huge mistake. We still did it though. That's the last thing we need for the community center, and we got it before winter. Technically. I hadn't turned in my red cabbage yet either, so I ran to the shed to find it and panicked. It wasn't in the summer box, because it was in the fall box. I don't know why. Anyway, off to the community center to finish things up. It was beautiful in here, but it's always a little bittersweet to say goodbye to the Junimos. When I was done, I moved my greenhouse and shed right next to my house because I'm lazy, then cleaned up my farm and processed cranberries for the rest of the night. I also put 2 scarecrows next to each other so they could be in love. How cute. Oh, and I changed my profession back to artisan now that I don't need animal products anymore. Day 85 was the first day of winter, and I started it by planting some winter seeds and taking care of my animals. After that, though, it was time to see the community center completion scene. I chose to settle things with words because, come on folks, let's not knock out the middle manager. Then I immediately tackled the entirety of the magic ink quest because, I don't know, it felt like a good thing to do right away. And I kind of just wandered around doing random chores like gathering wood and making tappers and stuff for the rest of the day. It was a nice start to winter. It also didn't hurt that I sold my stored pickles and wine for over 400,000 gold that night. On day 86, I got a ton of mail from the residents, but there was really only one letter that mattered. Willie wanted to show me his secret back room. Ooh. I gathered up some fishing buff food, batteries, hardwood, and iridium bars for no particular reason, then went for a round of pumpkin pickling. After that, I put my hoe in for the iridium upgrade, the last one I needed, by the way, and visited Willie's shop. As always, I am here to serve, so I immediately donated everything needed to fix his boat. After that, it was off to catch my worst enemy, the glacier fish. I forgot to eat my fishing food, so I want you to watch this very carefully, okay? I'll be right back. That's right, I caught the glacier fish on my first try. With a chest. And I didn't even have a fishing buff. I was pretty proud of myself. I was also literally shaking after that, so I didn't do anything strenuous for the rest of the day, in-game and in real life. On day 87, I got the pop-up for the Slime Monster Slayer goal while collecting hardwood, so I went to go pick that up and checked on my progress. I needed a few bats and 2 more pepper Rex. Not bad. I went to the Skull Cavern to see if I could knock out those requirements and completely whiffed it. Didn't hit either goal today. Oh well. I was planning to head to Ginger Island tomorrow, so I went home to fill my backpack full of things I would need to rush the golden walnuts. I would definitely be going back and forth from home to island, but I wanted to start strong. Day 88 was the day. I stopped by the desert to get some deluxe speed grow, grabbed my iridium hoe from Clint, and took my first boat ride to Ginger Island. You cannot skip this cutscene, so I had plenty of time to enjoy the awkward silence with Willie. Now, I would like to pretend that I know a lot about Stardew Valley, but the Golden Walnut Rush is not something I do often. I knew for a fact that I could hit 100 walnuts before the end of the year. Like, it's technically possible, right? I know this. But it was going to be tough, and it wasn't a guarantee. I made heavy use of my good friend Wickedy's walnut speedrun to help me get where I needed. We'll have to see if I could actually make it happen, though. This was where the real game begins. I got the one outside of Leo's hut, one from the puzzle room, and one from inside Leo's hut. I skipped this cutscene because it's boring. Then I looked for the frog fossil in the grass. No dice. I dropped a chest by the resort ruins and headed north. Day 1 on Ginger Island is always pretty wild, so I'm not really sure how much to show here. Probably lots of little jump cuts, I guess, but suffice it to say, by the end of the day I had gathered enough walnuts to open Island West and repair the farmhouse. I didn't plan on living here though, so I went home when I was done with everything. Day 89 was going to be another day on the island, but I couldn't forget upgrading things at home. I stopped by Robin's and got the next house upgrade started, then headed to Ginger Island. Today's goal was to make it through the volcano dungeon to unlock the forge shortcut and hopefully get more walnuts. I was desperate to get enough of them today to open up the island dig site, but I ended up just one single walnut short. However, I did make it to the forge, collecting a dwarven dagger along the way. I snagged the prismatic shard at this point and combined my burglar ring and iridium band. I tried to hunt for more walnuts, but it was no use. I passed out inside the volcano. On day 90, I needed to do a little bit of Pelican Town work. It was a pickles and wine day, aka money day, so I took care of those chores before heading back to Ginger Island to hunt for more walnuts. While I was watching my footage back, I realized I had missed one on my farm, so I snagged that single walnut, you know, the one I really needed yesterday, then headed over to free Professor Snail. After freeing him, I snagged all the walnuts on this side, then spent the rest of the day fishing and panning for fossils and walnuts. Once again, passed out on the island. Day 91 was another frantic day of walnut hunting, but honestly, I have a lot of chores to do on the mainland too, so I went home to tend my animals and greenhouse, stopped by the desert to trade for more staircases, then wrapped up catching some of the island fish I still needed before making another trip through the volcano. This time I fused my napalm ring with my slime charmer ring. I was pretty happy with my little ring setup. Then I made this little heart emote and passed out in the forge. On day 92, I got the achievement that told me my house upgrade was done. I also decided to do the Singing Stones room for more walnuts today. I had been putting it off for too long. You know what's really convenient about doing this challenge as you're recording though? You can just end your recording and watch back the footage. It may not be very honorable, but I don't care. I hate Extreme Simon Says. Because it was a rainy day and I had the walnuts from the stone game, I made the little music section for the mermaid and also got all the walnuts in Island South that I could find. After that, though, it was time to head home and attend the Festival of Ice. I really love warp totems. I'm gonna be honest, this entire run, just like Pam's life, would be going nowhere fast without warp totems. Anyway, I won the tournament, then I did some chores around home before passing out at home for a nice change. Day 93 was a pickles day at home, but more importantly another rainy day on the island, which meant I could get the second of 4 pedestals for the puzzle game and just guess the rest. I also found the frog fossil, so that was awesome. Between those two things, I had enough walnuts to restore the island trader. I spent the rest of the time on the island cleaning up and hunting for more walnuts in the mines. On day 94, I woke up on the island, but I needed to get back to the mainland. I had 3 golden coconuts to crack, which ended up getting me a walnut, 5 iridium ore, and the skull that I needed for Professor Snail. Awesome. I also started the basement upgrade and dropped off a birthday gift for Sebastian while I was in town, then headed back to the island to see my wife and father-in-law visiting the resort. Cute. I excitedly ran to complete the mammal fossil before realizing I still needed another piece. That was sad. I drowned my sorrows with the pirates and saw this screen for the first time. Perfect game. How about that? After that, I went for my customary midnight jog through the volcano and passed out, still needing a couple walnuts from the chest thingies. On day 95, I dove back into the volcano and found my final breakable chest walnut. Neat. I also snagged a prismatic shard halfway through and found a pirate hat at the end. I thought about it, but I like my trash hat. I upgraded my hammer with the prismatic shard I found, and I got vampiric, which is not bad, I guess. I also threw 2 emeralds on there for some super speed. After that, it was back home where I saw Mayor Lewis and Marnie discussing their secret relationship, but I'm gonna be honest, I really don't care. Do your thing, folks, I'm not here to judge. On day 96, I found the fossilized ribs at the dig site and collected my golden walnuts and banana sapling from Professor Snail. I bought some recipes from Gus, who was visiting the island, and planted a whole bunch of crops for both the frog and just for harvesting. It was coming down to the wire, and I still couldn't get into the walnut room. I headed to the volcano mine and found another prismatic shard, a dragon tooth club, more dragon's teeth for crafting, and the obelisk, of course. And I also found the bat fossil at some point today. That meant I needed just 1 more snake vertebrae, and I'd be done with Professor Snail's collection. Day 97 was my day. For some reason, my game kept crashing the first time I tilled this dig spot. It was like this Demetrius thing all over again. But, you know, eventually I got what I wanted, so the game survived. I checked Mr. Key's door to be sure and saw that I was actually at 96 of 100, not 97 like I thought, which was exceptionally bad news. I gathered my ostrich incubator recipe and 3 walnuts from Professor Snail, but I was still a single nut short. I was devastated. Today was supposed to be my day. I went to the volcano mine to mourn/murder and immediately got the journal scrap I needed with a walnut location. So yeah, all done, I guess. I gathered that walnut at, oh my god, are you kidding me? An ostrich egg too? Alright, well, I rushed over to Mr. Key's walnut room. I listened through his stupid speech and checked his request board. 4 prismatic shards or catching the extended legendaries. I gotta check at home, but I don't think I have enough prismatic shards for that. And I kinda need to focus on normal fish before worrying about the extended family, to be honest. I did end up checking at home, and yeah, no dice, so no key quest this time. We'll check later. I did harvest my pickles and wine and get that ostrich egg started, though. On day 98, I checked the traveling cart just out of habit, and was disappointed, of course. Honestly, though, the rest of the day was pretty chill. I had made it to the walnut room, and that was all that mattered. I stopped by the resort and took this screenshot since my wife was visiting. I bought myself a fancy island TV, and I just kind of wandered around like an idiot. Day 99, folks, almost done. I planted more winter seeds today, expanded my ancient fruit crop in the greenhouse, and worked on catching the few fish I hadn't wrangled yet. I also, like an absolute moron, took Danger in the Deep from Mr. Key. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. It was the night market day today, so I went home and watched the super awkwardly silent mermaid show for a pearl, just hoping the whole time that Maru wouldn't walk in. Then I caught all the submarine fish, plus an albacore and a squid. Day 100 was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. I decided to finish up my fishing collection today. I needed a perch, a lingcod, the mutant carp, a slime jack, the scorpion carp, the void salmon, and all of the mines fish. That was the reason picking Danger in the Deep was so stupid. Dang it. I was actually pretty bummed by that. But you know what? It was day 100. Time to assess our final stats, right? I stopped by home to say goodnight to Maru, but she just kind of grumbled at me. What the heck? Come on. Then I headed to visit the island to see Mr. Key. I wanted to know how close to perfection I had gotten. With bated breath, I crept into his walnut room and said hello. Then I checked the perfection tracker for the first time this game. 36%?